All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to all of you in attendance tonight. Thank you for joining us in this Stock Chat Ask Us Anything webinar, and we're thrilled to have you here tonight. Now, I'd like to welcome the 16 participants who are in attendance right now. So, thank you for spending your Thursday evening with us. And before we dive in, let me introduce myself first. I am JP Billones, the Business Development and Market Education Section Head for the Mindanao Desk of First Metro Securities, the stock brokerage house of the Metro Bank Group. It's my honor and pleasure to serve you as host today. Now, over the years, I've had the privilege of working with First Metro Sec, where our goal is not just about financial success, but also about empowering individuals like yourself with the knowledge and tools needed to make informed investment decisions. Most especially us from the business development and market education team, we get to inspire people to upgrade their money management skills and create awareness of investment opportunities that are legitimate, affordable, and accessible. Now, our market education efforts aim to bridge the gap between complexity and understanding, ensuring that you not only grasp the fundamentals, but also feel confident in applying them to your own saving and investing strategies. Now, before we embark on this learning journey together, I'd love to know a bit more about our participants tonight. So, first and foremost, no, I'd like to know, where are you joining us from today? Can you please type in the chat box your location, be it a city or a country outside the Philippines? Tingnan natin, no? Sino-sino yung mga attendees natin tonight. Oh, I see here people, no? First foremost, no, mga OFWs we have here from Kuala Lumpur, no? So, nice to see OFWs in attendance tonight. Mga kababayan din namin ni Joanna, no? We have here attendee from Davao City, no? So thank you so much for attending. I hope naka-visit kayo sa office namin sa Abriza. So I hope we hope to see you in person, no? Hindi ngayon na virtual lang. And we have people as well from Quezon City and people also from Visayas, no? Specifically sa Bohol, no? So yan. And more OFWs. We have here another person from Tokyo. All right. No? So it's really incredible to see such a diverse audience coming together to explore the world of finances. Now, for everyone in attendance tonight, I would just like to know as well, do any of you already have a stock trading or any form of investment account? So can you please type in yes or no in the chat box? If you already have, we'd like to know as well, no, if you're an existing First MetroSec client. Right? Yan. Nice to see na most of you are existing investors already. No? Meron na kayong stock brokerage account. I see here people who are also existing First MetroSec clients. So thank you so much, no, for using our services. And I hope you get to learn as well in this session tonight. Yan, I see familiar names in attendance as well, no? Thank you so much, no? We love yung mga you constantly attend our session. Yeah, thank you so much everyone. Ayan. So yung iba siguro, no, I did not see here a person that said no, no. Usually niya nahihiya kasi, but it's okay whether you're a seasoned investor or you're just starting out. I hope you learn a lot from our discussion tonight. Now, the market can be a really complex and ever-changing na beast, no? And navigating it successfully requires constant learning. And we're happy to see that you are thirsty for knowledge. That's exactly what Stock Chat is all about, wherein we bring you insightful discussions, expert analysis, and actionable strategies to help you become a more confident investor. Now, today's webinar is actually about you. No, this webinar is your chance to pick the brains of our expert panel. So we have here a fantastic lineup of experts ready to show you your most burning questions, be it about stocks, investing strategies, or making informed decisions about the market. That's why we're very excited about this interactive format. If I'm not mistaken, this is our first time delivering this type of session. Now, before we dive into your question, I see here people already with questions. No? So let me introduce first our amazing team that have given their time to us this evening. First, we have Miss Joanna Blanca Ramos. She is a customer support representative of First Metro Securities. Although her professional journey has taken her on a different path, her passion for investing remains unwavering. It's not just a career choice for her, but a way of life that resonates deeply within her. Now, becoming part of First Metro Securities is more than a goal. It's an opportunity for her to empower and enrich the lives of many Filipino families. She actively contributes to First Metro Securities market education initiatives by conducting webinars that focus on utilizing the First Metro Securities platform, which is, as you know, very essential for your investing journey. Now, Joe, would you like to greet and say a few words to our attendees tonight?
Yes, hi everyone. Good evening. I hope no you are all doing great. Some of you here might be traveling pa no from work. So just ingat lang kayo sa biyahe, and then hope you enjoy this webinar no because we will be like throwing or providing you answers no to your questions.
All right, thank you for that, Joanna. Now, next we also have here tonight Mr. Mark Angeles. He is a first vice president and head of equity research at First Metro Securities. He holds degrees in accounting, business management, and economics from the University of South Florida. He has over 20 years of experience in analyzing and advising US, European, and Philippine equities. He also heads the research partnership between First Metro Securities and Development Bank of Singapore. Sir Mark, would you like to greet and say a few words to our audience tonight?
Sorry about that. I was looking for the mute button. Thank you for joining us tonight, and hopefully we deliver some value to you guys and answering your questions. Looking forward to a very interactive night with you as well. Thank you. Thank you for listening to us.
Thank you for that, Sir Mark. Now we have a lot of ground to cover this evening, so let's make the most of your time. Please feel free to submit your questions using the Q&A chat function in Zoom. So there's a Q&A button there, so feel free to chime your questions there. Now, we'll address them in the order that they're received, focusing on a variety of topics to ensure everyone gets some value. But we understand it will take you some time to queue in your questions. We can start with the questions sent in advance. Now, if you remember when you registered, there's a question there that you can actually send in your advanced questions, and we'll start with those questions. Now, for the first question, we have here the first question. This is from Lucas Knudsen. How to pick the right stock? Now, I think I'll be able to share a bit about this question before I move into our expert from our research division. Now, when it comes to picking the right stock, we have to go back to the basics of how we can earn from stocks. There are only two ways for you to earn the stock market. That is through capital appreciation and through dividends. So easier will be the dividends because you can actually calculate that whenever they have a dividend declaration. So they can also, no, if you're the type of person, no, because those two concepts, no, that's capital appreciation and dividends. So if you're the type of investor who likes to grow with the business, you go for capital appreciation. But if you're the type of investor who likes to get some level of regular income through dividends, then dividends might be a priority for you. Now, it really depends what type of investor you are. There are also naman stocks out there that you can get the best of both worlds. No? So that's why we have a stock screen research report that allows you to find those types of stocks. No? Now, talking about capital appreciation, of course, no, you cannot buy high and sell low. No, lugi kayo dun, di ba? The way to do it is to buy low and sell high. Now, how do you know if the stock is already undervalued? No, so there's usual namang approaches like top-down approach. You look at the economy first, then you find industries that would make the most out of that economic condition. Then from that industry, you find a company that has really good potential to make the most of what's happening sa market, or they are undervalued. And talking about undervalued stocks, our research team actually provides recommendations no ng mga top picks during a certain uh, period of the year. No, usually niyan twice. No, we have start of the year and mid-year. No, because a lot of things can happen in the market. And with that, no, I'll turn over the floor to Sir Mark to share more how our research team actually picks our top picks. Go ahead, Sir Mark.
Yeah, thank you for that, JP. So just a recap on what JP said, right? So I think the first picking the right stock really involves a combination of careful research. So understanding the market and having a well-defined strategy really helps. So I guess the first step here, as JP mentioned, is you have to understand your risk level, right? Assess your risk tolerance. This will depend on your financial goals, investment horizon, and personal comfort with, of course, volatility. The other one, as JP mentioned, is that define your investment goals. So are you looking for capital appreciation, income generation, or wealth preservation? So your goal will definitely influence what stock you have to pick. From our side, the research is that research and understand the business is very important. You have to look into the company's financials, business model, competitive positioning, and industry trends. We use quantitative and qualitative analysis, using financial ratios for quantitative analysis and assess management quality and brand strength for qualitative ones. To be in the stock market, you always need to be informed. Keep up with the news, trends, and events that could impact the economy, depending on your chosen stock that you want to invest in. You need to diversify your portfolio. Again, that saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Diversification can help mitigate risk. You need to also avoid emotional investing. So always make decisions based on facts and analysis, not emotions. And as we do it here in First Metro Securities as one of our offerings to our top valued client, we provide regular review of your portfolio. Again, the market is dynamic, and regular reviews can help you keep up with your portfolio aligned with your goals. So remember, picking stocks is very complex. You can consider us seek advice from us, especially JP and my team. We can give you advice on which stocks to pick. We do our homework from using financial news, company reports, and investment tools that we have, right? But again, I think the most important part here is always invest within your means and never invest in money that you can afford. You can't afford to lose, right? I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Sir Mark. And maybe I'll take this opportunity as well, no, to share to our audience, no, talking about picking the right stocks, no, where can we find the picks, no, or the buy calls of First Metrosec Research? So with that, I'll take this opportunity to share my the First Metrosec platform. Many of you here are existing First Metrosec account holders. I think you can see the screen right now. So for you to find no yung mga research reports that our research team actually they really they do this in a very strategic na manner. For you to find or make the most of their insights, you can find them here in the research tab. When you click on the research tab, you can go here to First Metrosec. Now you can see here all the different research reports that our equity research division is producing. They have many different types of reports, be it for long-term investors. You can find them here in the company report. So for the company report, you can click on here. So you can see here a list. You can see here a list for a while. Let's go to all reports. Hold on. Yeah. So for here in all reports, you can actually filter here for the company reports. Let me click that. There you go. So you can see there all the reports on different companies that our research team covers. So yeah, I'm giving you a tidbit, but feel free to explore. There are more reports out there. Those are usually for long-term investors, but For those active investors, you can also look here, Trader's Playbook Report, wherein it can really give you recommendations on where to enter, where to take profit, or where to cut loss. And there are more research reports out there, such as the Stock Screen Research Report for people who like to screen stocks based on different fundamental metrics. So maybe later we'll have opportunities to explore that, but going back to our presentation. Ayan, thank you. We see a lot of questions already, no? 14 questions na sa Q&A. But let's get right to the next question. Now, the next question here is from Jang. He is asking, what should I do with Holcim stock? I still did not sell. For this, Joanna, would you like to chime in on this? Go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much, JP. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. So with that, no, for a question from Jang Mohammed. So if you hold a Holcim share, no, since we remembered last year, Holcim submitted that requesting, and Holcim is no longer listed na din on the PSE. So you won't be able to sell your shares talaga through the exchange. So if you are holding a scriptless or digital shares, no, of Holcim, what you need to do is you need to first convert it into a physical certificate, or ito yung tinatawag natin na upliftment of shares. So to initiate that conversion, you need to email customer support. So that is customer service at firstmetrosec.com.ph, and we will be providing you of those documents necessary for you to uplift your shares. Now, what are those documents? So we have the upliftment request form. So it is a form where you provide your details. You also need to provide two signature-bearing government IDs, and another form is a signature card from First Metro Security. To receive those documents, we will then proceed with the uplifting of your shares, and we will send it to you. It depends on your mode of delivery, no, kung ano yung preference ninyo. And then after that, if you already have your physical certificate, you need to coordinate with the transfer agent of Holcim, which is the Stock Transfer Service. So we will be providing you of their contact numbers as well. So once you receive those certificates, you need to directly coordinate with them na. We will be assisting you on the process, and if ever naman you have questions, so you can email again, customer service. Okay, so
Alright.
I hope that answered the question. Thank you, Jay.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Jo. No? And I hope this can provide good guidance to our existing clients who were not able to avail of the tender offer for Holcim. Now, moving on to the next question. Here's a question from Becky Carino. She is asking, is SGP a good stock to buy for a long-term investment? Sir Mark, would you like to share insights on this?
Yeah, so ano lang, just to give you a background SGP, it is practically the grid, right? So that is where the power generators use to pass to deliver energy or electricity to the distributors like Meralco and Meralco to our houses. So SGP has monopoly. It's only one. It's just a grid that cover for the Philippines. So far, I believe the stock has a very high dividend yield. It pays like 100% of its earnings. It dividends that away. And our thinking here is that right now, I believe it's around 15%, the current dividend yield. However, I think why it's higher now is because there's an expectation that SGP will need to spend in order to upgrade the grid. The grid at the moment is not, well, needs an upgrade in order to accommodate the growing demand for the country, and also the rise of renewable energies such as solar, wind, and hydro. And the grid needs to be upgraded. So with the upgrade of the grid, SGP will need to spend And with this type of spending, it will lead to lower dividends moving forward. However, it seems that the market has already priced that. At 15% dividend yield, I think SGP is worth holding on to if you buy at these prices. But if you have been holding at a higher price and it has gone down, I think it will stay that way for the time being until uh, the issues have been resolved. But again, if you're looking for income, I believe SGP is a good long-term investment.
All right, thank you for that, Sir Mark. I guess that chimes into what Sir Mark's mentioned in the first question. You really have to understand what's your reason for investing, because when you know your reason for investing, you'll have a clarity on which stocks to buy and which stocks to avoid. All right, so moving on to the next question. This question is from Brie Bautista. He is asking what kind of investment is good for a beginner. So for this, I'll be taking this question. So essentially, for beginners, I think the first investment that you can that's good for you is really number one is you invest in education. No, so you're in the right place. No, you attended this seminar. You want to learn more about how it is to invest in the stock market, and you can actually learn from others who were already in the market for the long time. For example, Sir Mark has been in the market for 20 years or maybe more than 20 years now. So it's nice to learn from people who already have experience and also wisdom. And thank you for attending our learning session tonight. Now, first and foremost, I think you'll have to first clarify your risk tolerance, as mentioned by Sir Mark a while ago, because again, this is a stocks chat session, so I assume you're interested to learn and invest in stocks. But you have to understand your risk profile, because you might find the returns of stocks attractive, but you might not you might not be you might the risk involved in stocks might not be right for you, or it's too volatile for your risk tolerance. So you really have to understand your risk tolerance, and if you're somewhere between moderately aggressive and aggressive, then stocks can be a good start for you. More so if you're investing for the long term and you're still young, its stock market has good potential for you to build wealth. Now, after that, out of the stocks out there, where should you go? Now, first and foremost, it really depends on your financial capacity, because if your financial capacity is big, you can actually buy many stocks, so you will have a diverse portfolio. And you can use our research team's recommendations to build your portfolio. Usually, they have around somewhere between 5 to 10 stocks every time, depending on the condition. But having 5 to 10 stocks is already a good diversification to start with. But if your financial capacity allows you only to buy siguro one or two stocks, that might not be too diversified. No, it's too concentrated on two companies, which might be a risky proposition. No, considering you're starting out. So with that, I'd like to recommend as well. If you want to just track the performance of the index, we have what we call First Metro Exchange Traded Fund, wherein it tracks the performance of the index, wherein even for as low as I think right now it's trading around 100 pesos. For example, let me check. FMETF. It's already trading today at 106. At that price range, you only need 10 shares, not 10 shares minimum. So you'll need only around 1,100 to buy 10 shares of FMETF. Now, the good thing about FMETF is that once you buy that, since you're tracking essentially the market, you are indirectly exposed to the top 30 companies in the Philippines. So that might be a good start for you, in the sense that even though with your 1,500 pesos, you're not that exposed to too much risk by exposing yourself to just one or two companies, but to the top 30 stocks. So that can be a good start for you. But again, investing is personal, so it's best if you find guidance, no, so you can talk to us, so we can best find investment opportunities for you that's fit to your personality. All right. So I think I covered that question already. Now let's go to the next question. This is a question from Tokyo High Tech Hardware. The question here is, is there a specific required announcement timing when a preferred share or stock is going to be redeemed? All right. So, Joe, would you like to chime in on this? You're on mute.
Yes. Okay. So thank you, Jake, for that question. So let me just share an info now on the customer service side. If ever there is like a company already is scheduled now for the redemption of shares, you will be receiving an email from us. And then if ever that happens, the funds will be credited to your First MetroSec account. So if there is an announcement, so just check your email on the full redemption, and then check your account as well for the funds. So you may want to add more, Jay.
Yeah, sure. This is quite specific to preferred shares because usually when preferred shares are issued, they usually have a optional call date. So it's termed optional call date because the company has the option to call the shares or not. Because in certain economic conditions, sometimes it's more advantageous for them to not call the shares, no? Or there are some conditions wherein it's better for them to call back their shares. So that's why there's a term optional. No? It's an optional call date. So there are many preferred shares out there that are already beyond their optional call date. But usually when that happens, if they do not call on that optional call date, they sometimes have a dividend step up rate. So they usually announce thereafter that they'll be changing the dividend rate so that it will also be fair to investors. So yeah, I guess that covers it for this question. Let's move to the next question. Yeah, so here's another question from Giovanni. Is there a good return in investing in telcos? So I guess, Sir Mark, you can share your insights on this.
Yeah, very good question, right? Going back to the first question, where do you want to invest, right? Are you an income investor? If you're an income investor seeking dividends, telcos are a good way to park your money to invest in, especially given like the likes of TPL, DT, and Glow. They pay a very high dividend yield uh, ever since. And given that this is a mature business, dividend yields have been quite high for the longest time. And our thinking here is that if you look at the environment, it's been competitive, very, very competitive for the telcos. As you can see, plans are now lower than they were a few years back. You get more internet data than before. Your 500 will give you like 20 gig today, like versus a 500 before would only give you less than that. Speeds are faster because telcos are competing with each other in terms of speed and at the same time prices. So far, you have three telcos here in the Philippines. Well, if you count Dito, that's Dito's number four. You have Globe, Converge, PLDT, and Dito. So for Converge, it's mainly a pure play fixed broadband operator. It is well positioned in terms of to benefit from the fixed line fiber plans. If you recall, before we when you apply for a fiber plan, it's always how do you say that monthly payments, right? Now with Converge, they're offering prepaid, which same as your prepaid mobile. So far, you're seeing strong additions in terms of number of subscribers in the first quarter, and it could start to pay dividends as early as 2025, given its low gearing and slowing capex requirements. Converge is one of our top picks in terms of the telcos, given it's able to generate stronger or faster EPS growth than the other two. Our next top pick for telcos is Tel. Tel or PLDT is well positioned in both the broadband, which is your fiber, and at the same time mobile, which is your smart, right? So very close number two to Globe, around less than between the 40%, 43% versus Globe around the same number. But it's a leader in terms of the broadband business. It holds a lion's share around 49%, as of N1Q. This is due to a first mover advantage. It competes strongly with Globe with an even split or near even market share split. The thing here is that you will not see very strong growth, but PLDT offers a very high dividend yield, close to 6% currently, right? The other telco, which we have a hold call, is Globe. Globe always carries a valuation premium because of fintech play, meaning GCash. So we are not, in terms of telco valuations, we are more focused on the core telco business rather than the fintech play. We believe that once GCash, this itself as a private public entity, then we expect that valuation premium of Globe to come down because investors that bought Globe because of GCash will now shift to GCash. And the problem with Globe, in my opinion, at the moment, is that most of the competition is in the mobile segment where they're very strong. However, they are lagging behind in terms of the broadband where competition is less intense. So for Converge, stronger growth because it does not have the drag of mobile. PLDT competes strongly with Globe in mobile. However, having the lion's share in fixed broadband allows it to mitigate some of the weakness in the mobile segment, whereas Globe takes on the full brunt of the competition in terms of where the mobile segment is. I hope that helps, by the way.
All right. Thank you for that, Sir Mark, for sharing your insights on the telco sector and, of course, our topics on that certain sector. And I think I'll take.
We have some hand being raised at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. I think nagkamali lang, Sir Mark.
Okay.
Binaba ulit. But we have here another from anonymous attendee talking about telco. This anonymous attendee is asking, is it a right strategy to hodl on losing stocks? I bought Dito during its IPO, and considering the price as it is now, it seems it is the right time to sell it and invest in other stocks. So maybe we can share our thoughts or opinions on Dito, Sir Mark.
Yeah, I think Dito is a very good challenger to the mobile segment, right? I believe Dito has the better technology given it has more 5G spectrum, meaning it does not have to invest in a lot of more capex. And so far, rules that, changes in the telco segment, for example, number portability, tower sharing, allows Dito to compete head on with the likes of PLDT and Globe. However, right, it is participating where competition is very much intense. So for Dito to grow, it has to eat into the market share of Globe and PLDT. In order to do that, he has to spend. He has to spend on A&P in order to get subscribers. Because the way we see it is that there's a monthly budget for Filipinos on how much they spend on telcos. So for example, Joanna here, right? Joanne. Her budget is 500. That 500, she may have 3 SIM cards. However, that 500 will go to the best telco provider that will give them the best value and service. That doesn't necessarily mean that it will be split evenly. More or less, I will pay for a Globe plan this month because their promos is much better. And probably next month, I will pay for Dito because mas mabilis yung internet niya. You know, that's how we believe that the budget is. So Dito has to be more aggressive in getting Joanne to use that 500 on its network rather than PLDT and Globe. So those are the challenges. And as I saw here, you own Dito since IPO, right? I believe that the first rule of thumb, the rule of thumb for at least for me, is that when you hit like 5% or 10%, you cut your losses. Because if that goes down to 50%, the stock needs to double in order for it to break even. And that's why we always say never, as I mentioned, never trade on emotions, never get attached to stock. Have your rule. For myself, it's that if it's down 7 to 10%, I cut, and if I still like the stock, I'll buy it again. But if I don't like it, I'll move on to a faster stock, right? To at least offset my losses. So I don't fall, advise you, don't fall in love with the stock. But I don't know how much your losses are for Dito right now. But if there's an alternative, if there's a stock right now that you see that is able to generate stronger returns, why not shift to be able to mitigate, to offset some of the losses you had with Dito? JP, maybe you want to add?
Yeah, I think that's already more than enough for the insights on Tito. All right, thank you for sharing that, Sir Mark. All right, so for the next question, we have here another question from Josephine. She is asking, can you transfer stocks between two different accounts under FMSEC? So I guess this client has multiple accounts with First Metro Securities, which by the way, you can actually do so. You can have multiple accounts with First Metro Sec. Some of our clients, what they do is to actually have separate accounts for their long-term investments, for their short-term trading, and another account for passive income like dividends earned. So you can have multiple accounts with First Metrosec. But with the question, pwede bang i-transfer between two different accounts under First Metrosec? If so, how and what are the fees? Go ahead, Joanna.
Okay, thank you, Jake, no, for that question. And to Ma'am Josephine Salonga. Okay, so can you transfer stocks between two different accounts? For that, the answer is no. So we cannot directly transfer shares from two different accounts. When we say two different accounts, different name. So say we have here JP Villones and Sir Mark Angeles, so we cannot transfer that one because there is a policy that we cannot change the beneficial owner. We can only process transfer of shares within the same account holder. If ever naman you have an account like just like JP and Sir Mark, we can facilitate that request through a cross transaction naman. So in that process, so one account will act as the seller and the other one as the buyer. So to do that, we have a form you need to fill out. And also when it comes to the charges, there's applicable transaction fees, so which includes the buying and selling charges naman. So to initiate the request, just email customerservice@firstmetrosec.com.ph. And then another is not only transferring of shares from two different accounts is pwede. So you can also transfer shares from different brokers. So say if you have a broker from an account from our friendly competitor, so you can do that. So to do that also, just send an email to the customer service at First Metrosec. Okay, thank you, Jay.
All right, thank you so much, Joe. And I think we have here a question from an attendee. Since you talked about emailing to customer service, there's a question here from an attendee. Let me search here. With regards to sending emails to customer service, usually there's an auto message, no, parang auto reply from First Metrosec to the client. Usually it acknowledges that it already received that email and merong ticket number as reference. So, for example,
Yes.
it takes a little bit of time for us to get back to them. What is the way for them to follow up on their request?
Okay, so to follow up on your request, you can actually send another ticket or you can just reply to your existing ticket, and it will be bumped naman dun sa amin system. And then also you can contact us with the numbers. For the numbers, it is found on the website and also dun sa ating First Metrosec Go application. So if ever naman no, there is delay in the responses, so we will get back to you naman the soonest no, if ever can. Okay, thank you,
Yeah.
Jay.
Thank you for that, Joe. And I think I'm receiving here direct messages from some of our clients that some of them have been waiting for quite some time. So I'll take this opportunity. So again, to all our participants who have existing tickets, uh, just feel free to message Joanna directly for your ticket number. Tapos she will attend to them after this session. But at least no, hindi naman kayo maghintay for more than reasonable amount of time. So again, take this opportunity if you have an existing ticket with customer service, please send directly sa kay Joanna or dito sa chat box so we can work on it starting tomorrow and hopefully we get to reply to you by next week. Sige, I'll take note of
Yes.
that na lang, Jo. All right, thank
Thank
you
you,
so
Jay.
much. So for the next question, this question is I think for Sir Mark. What is the trend for real estate companies like Ali, SMPH, MEG, RLC, and VLL? Maybe we can share our insights on the property sector, Sir Mark.
Yeah, that's a very tough question to answer right now. Okay, so from our research, we think there is a structural change in the property industry in the Philippines. Maybe I'll give you some background. Recall what COVID has done to us, right? Before COVID, there's no such thing as hybrid workforce. It's always on site. With COVID, we were allowed to do that. We were allowed to work from home, work remotely, as they say, or have a hybrid setup like 60-40, meaning 60% in the office, 40% at home or somewhere else. And that is made possible because during COVID, uh, companies realized that productivity was much better and they're able to save on costs in terms of their office space. So with that in mind, there are repercussions to the office segment and also to the property segment, residential segment. So the one, for example, the economics of a city. You know why Manila is quite congested, and the answer to that is because this is the CBD. This is where the jobs are. This is where the pay is higher. So people from the province or out go to Manila to work and live here before the pandemic. So during that time, for example, somebody from Bicol will work in Metro Manila. He cannot go. He rents a place in Metro Manila to stay for his stay while working, and that's why the condominiums became so popular. So people were renting. Nowadays, given that you're allowed to work remotely, you only go to Metro Manila for a certain time of the month or a certain time of the week, you're able to skirt that and not pay for the rental in terms of condominiums or housing in Metro Manila. That allows you to save. So with that in mind, we have seen rental prices in terms of condominiums in Metro go down. There's a lot of ready for occupancy uh, at the moment. If you have the extra money, go ahead and buy a property, especially the discounted ones, because they offer good value in the long run, but not in the immediate future. And with that in mind, offices as well have less demand in terms of space, given they don't need to provide office setup for older employees because they can take shifts and sitting into one chair like a shared or a co-working space, right? So you can pass by if somewhere from Ayala, from Makati or in Manila, you can see there's a lot of vacancies in Ayala Avenue in terms of office buildings. There's a lot of RFOs. So those are where you see a lot of weakness in the property segment. So that will lead to lower rents for office, which we saw already, higher vacancy rates, which we're seeing at 20%, higher RFO for residential. However, prices continue to remain elevated as your big four property companies have cut down on project launches. So they're controlling the supply. One bright spot is the malls. Being able to work remotely means I can go to the mall, work at a Starbucks, share with the aircon and stuff, right? So that's something that's been going on. More free time means I don't need to be stuck in traffic coming home from work. I could be working from home after my shift. I go to the mall and do some leisure. So those things have been happening. We're also seeing the influx of a lot of foreign brands here in the Philippines. If you look at the mall tenants here in Metro Manila, more on the foreign side, and that is growing the demand for mall spaces. So, having said that, in terms of the trend, we like the property segment with large exposure to malls. So that is SM Prime and Robinson's Land. However, if they have a large office and also a large residential, it is a drag to their performance. And as we have seen so far in terms of performance of SM and Ayala and the Mega World in the past, that the weakness in those segments have caused share prices to underperform. So among the property names, we like Robinson's Land, and we believe it is fundamentally the stronger one across the big four. It is the fastest to go back to pre-COVID levels. It has a strong mall business, and its office, while there's risk to the office, is located in Ortigas where demand remains quite robust because the prices are lower to begin with. Parang ganon. The residential, they have less exposure to residential. They have high end, which we think that's where the demand is at the moment. So in terms of the real estate, if I were to rank at the moment, I like RLC and Ayala Land, and probably a hold on SM Prime and Mega World. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for sharing that, Sir Mark. No, so again, that's property sector 101. No, and at least now for those of you who are holding or who are looking to add on positions to property sectors, I guess you have already insights from our research team. And I think when I scan the submitted questions here, Sir Mark, maybe we can cover some of the property stocks related na question here. Here's a question from anonymous attendee regarding our insight on Mega World stock. What's our thoughts on it? He is asking, is buying the stock now a good decision?
Yeah, Mega World, if you look at the P, is pretty much undervalued, right? It's been undervalued for so long. I think similar to RLC, but RLC has seen some good days in the past few months given the strong performance. Mega World at the moment, we are cautious on the stock, given it is predominantly your biggest landlord in terms of office space. So if the office space continues to muddle through this type of environment, we think that stock price of Mega World will do the same. However, you gotta look at where the valuations are, and if you're comfortable with the current valuation and have a long-term horizon, maybe Mega World could be a stock for you given how cheap the prices are. And by that time, we could see the office segment start to recover, and I will allow Mega World to re-rate.
All right. Thank you for that, Sir Mark. All right, so let's move on to the next questions. After learning about the property sector, let's move on to this question. So for the next question, does the First MetroSec platform have a risk management feature? So this is again from Lucas Nodsen. So I think for me to be able to share this, I'd like to share my screen. Ayan. So the answer there is yes. So there are risk management features in the First Metrosec platform. Specifically, when you trade, oops, let me. So when you trade stocks, noon it's just limit orders, no? So ibig sabihin you just buy or sell at a certain price that you prefer. But right now, when you look at the First Metrosec platform, we already have multiple types of orders. We used to have only limit orders, but right now we already have stop and limit if touch conditional orders. So we call these conditional orders because the order has to be triggered. No, the price of the stock needs to reach a certain level before a limit order is submitted to the exchange. So it's just like uh, it's like an if else statements. If this happens, if this happens, this is what you should do. So it's a feature that allows you to, number one, if you'd like to have a buy on breakout play, you can set that up. Like if it breaks out a certain resistance level, you can set a trigger price a little bit above that resistance to look at that to verify that breakout. Then you can tell the system that you would buy to a certain level higher than that trigger price. So that's a buy on breakout play. Usually you use your limit if touch order. On the other hand, if you want to protect your downside, which is the question of our attendee, we also have this stop limit order, which is usually used to mitigate your losses. So you can, for example, you use your stop limit below your support level. So when you have this certain support level, if you anticipate, usually you buy at the bounds of support. But if it doesn't do that, no, if it falls below, so you can actually set up a stop limit order wherein if it falls, as mentioned by Sir Mark, maybe you can set a stop loss of 7 to 10%. Personally, I recommend that as well. But for me, I hash it to different because some people are very tight in cutting their losses. Some of them cut from 3 to 5%. Some people are quite loose with their cut losses, sometimes between 8 to 10%. But the median is between 5 to 8%. So depending on your risk tolerance or your trade setup, you can set stop limit, stop loss order. So for example, you have you bought at 100, you set a stop loss at 90 pesos. So what you're going to do is you're going to set up a stop limit order wherein, let's say it reaches 92 pesos, so that's already 8% loss. So you tell the system that if it reaches, no, you put your trigger price here at 92. You put it, the trigger price is 92. So if bababa siya ng 92, it will send a limit order to the exchange that you will sell up until a certain number. So for example, you set it at 90 pesos, so you can have a 10% stop loss. So yeah, you can use this stop limit order to mitigate your losses. And I think I'll take this opportunity, no, talking about this conditional orders, also highlighting the research team's report. So let me pull up a Trader's Playbook report for your appreciation. So for example here, this is a Trader's Playbook report on Jollibee Foods Corporation, which is also our top pick, but we have here a Trader's Playbook column. So by the way, it tells you what happened to that stock, our view on the fundamental perspective, and also a view on its technical perspective. But for this question, there's a recommendation here. Accumulate once JFC breaks above 240. So you can set actually a buy on breakout conditional order there. But as traders, you don't get married to your stocks. You are able to have net profits if you maximize your profits and minimize your losses. So it's important to have stop loss. So you have here set a stop loss limit at around 220.8 and even take profit level at 276. So you can follow this Trader's Playbook report. And if you have access to Pro, we have a conditional order there that's not available here. As you can see that the order here available is only limit, stop, and lit. But in the Pro version of our platform, we have one cancels the other. So let's say you have a position in a certain stock, you can actually set up your take profit level. You have a limit if touch take profit and a stop limit order to cut your losses. So yeah, so I hope that gave you an idea, and I won't take longer to answer that. All right, let's move on to the next question. So some of you guys are asking now why others are skipped, because we already have advanced questions that we are answering, but don't worry, I'm scanning all through it na medyo relatable siya, and we'll get to that later. So that's the risk management feature of First Metrosec. Now, here's another question from Matthew Tan. How much startup capital would be recommended to begin investing in the stock market? So, a simple answer, for you to open a First Metrosec account, you'll only need 1,000 pesos. So you can start with that already. You can already open a stock market account with First Metrosec for just 1,000 pesos. But when it comes to capital recommended, it really depends on where you are in your financial life right now. So you only invest your excess cash. That means you already have your emergency fund, you already have enough insurance coverage. Anything in excess of that, you can consider investing. All right. So, but there are many investment options. But if you'd like to invest something for over 5 or 10 years or more, then the stock market might be an appropriate asset class for you. So, ibig sabihin yan, that's money that you're not going to use not anytime soon. Now, 5 years, 10 years, or more. All right. So yeah. So let's move on to the next question. So we're done with the advanced questions already. Let's try to simmer down here the questions that we receive. So we'll try to answer as many as we can. So here, I think very relevant questions, Sir Mark. From anonymous attendee, what stocks do we recommend right now?
Yeah, so at the moment we're defensive, given the market situation. We've been defensive. If you've been following us, we've been quite defensive going into this year, knowing that the economy is going to slow down and earnings are not going to be as robust as it was last year. So far, first quarter GDP and first quarter earnings has validated our call. We saw GDP coming in slower, especially the consumption side. We're seeing weakness in earnings as well. And going forward to next year, we prefer stocks that are able to have that strong demand still intact, able to generate EPS or earnings per share. So we like stocks that have defensive revenue streams or something unique to them. We also like stocks that have lower cost structure, as we believe inflation will in the past few years have led to higher fixed cost expenses. We also like stocks that have low debt. Currently, interest rates are very high. We are no longer enjoying the 3 to 5% interest rates. Interest rates are now north of 6% already. And having said that, interest expense will be high for those companies with a lot of debt. So under this scenario, we like to be defensive. We like a few stocks. For example, we like PLDT for the yield. We like Converge for the growth in fiber. So those are two names that we like to telcos. We do like RLC. We think RLC has a very resilient business model, mainly from malls and quite a captive market in its offices, and a very low exposure into the low and mid-income residential segment. The other two picks that we like is Century Pacific. We were one of the first ones to, I guess, we made a very bold call last year. Recall Century Pacific, the prices went down closer to 24 because of El Nino fears, right? So when you say El Nino, it means that inflation on raw materials. But for us, we've been covering Century Pacific for quite a long time. We understand that El Nino is good for CNPF. And the main reason for that is that tuna or skipjack tuna are attracted to warmer waters. So when the waters are warm, they're easy to catch. So leading to better tuna catches, and thus leading to lower prices. So lo and behold, that has panned out for CNPF. We saw margins expand, and as tuna prices go down from 2,000 to now 1,500 to 1,400 per ton. We also like URC. URC is a underperformer at the moment, and one of the main reasons is because of coffee and cocoa prices have gone up. But from based on our research, not all of URC's raw materials have gone up, and based on discussions with management, URC has locked in prices, so the current rate of higher raw materials will not affect URC this year. More importantly, while top line of URC has been slower at low single-digit growth, mainly due to impact of inflation on consumers. We're seeing some belt tightening. However, the lower cost structure have led URC to generate better than expected EBIT operating income, or what we call positive operating leverage. So we like URC for that. And lastly, we like Jollibee. We think Jollibee growth prospects remains intact. Despite some weaknesses abroad, the Jollibee brand continues to be very strong and continues to drive strong same-store sales growth, as we have seen in the first quarter. Furthermore, during the pandemic, Jollibee was able to rationalize its costs. So same as URC, we're seeing operating margin expansion on lower cost structure. Yeah, I hope that helps. So we like RLC, Converge, PLDT, we like CNPF, URC, and John.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Sir Mark. Now, we have here some attendees here who really like to learn more about fundamentals, and maybe we can have parang blitz, no? Blitz question and answer with regards to fundamentals, because I know this is within your expertise. I'm going to run them through, Sir Mark. Here's an
Okay.
anonymous attendee asking, in reading the financial reports of the companies, are bonds included in the total liabilities?
Yes, they are.
All right. Thank you for that, Sir Mark. And here's another question. What part of the financial statement is the most important part to read to know the operations and how and where a company's plans and future is heading? Where can we find this part?
Well, there is no one size fits all for that one. We look at different things, right? For the income statement, some prefer the top line, some prefer the operating income, some prefer EPS. For us, they're all equal. At the end of the day, EPS matters a lot because that is what generates return for shareholders. The balance sheet is very important. We need to know if it's the debt levels, the gearing, if the stock is net debt or net cash. That's very important. Does it have enough cash to generate to pay for capex? Those factors, or is the stock is able to pay off debt when it has to? So that's very important. Those are very important. And lastly, for the cash flow, free cash flow is king, right? So that is practically capex, cash for operations minus capex. So we tend to look at that. We look at capex as well to determine if the stock or the company is very aggressive in expanding, and so on and so forth. So those are the key factors that I look at when in terms of analyzing the financial model.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Sir Mark. And just give me this opportunity to highlight that you can actually look at the financials of the company. We have for you 5 years worth of data that are on an annual basis, like for example, 2023, 2022, 2021, 2020, and 2019. So here you can see everything from earnings summary, balance sheets, income statement accounts, and other financial information. So I think to our attendee who is asking where they can find it, you can actually find it here. And not only that, you can also see here in valuation from its highlights, be it the per share data. You have there EPS, book value per share, cash flow per share, and even the price ratios. You can see that here, 5 years worth of data. But I think no, if you'd like on a quarterly basis, you can get that on Edge. But what's available here in the First Metrosec platform is in year, no, end of year basis. So these are from their annual. So I think yung mga question ng attendee can be found here. So yeah, when you do your fundamental analysis, you can use this as reference, and you can even extract the Excel sheet here for your reference. And I think one of the a good thing of our research team is that they do the fundamentals for you. They release they release a company report. So when we recommend a certain stock, it's not really just a plain recommendation that you buy this. It actually has a logic to it. If you want to view the reason behind that buy call or the implied ratios that led us to that decision, you can search that here in the First Metrosec platform. Sorry. Ayan. So just to highlight, no, because grabe pinaghirapan talaga to ng research team namin, no. So I hope you make the most out of this, because I think this is really good, lalo na for people who don't have the time to really digest the numbers. That's something that our research team does, no. But of course, no, we understand that different assumptions have different. It leads to different conclusions. So you can view the company reports here. So let me just pull this up. Let's say URC. I'll share that screen. Yeah. So for URC, you see here our view on that stock. And you can see here everything about why we have a buy call on it with a price target of 145. There's a logic behind these. So yeah, we don't have time to discuss every one of them, but I just like to highlight this because yeah, this is really can add value to you. All right. So yeah. So it's already 7 p.m. no? So we'd like to run through some of the questions as well. Maybe we can extend for 15 minutes, but that's the maximum what we can do. And I guess we were able to cover most questions regarding fundamentals already and the financial statements. So I'll be taking those off. Yeah. So here's another question. I think we have not discussed this during our session right tonight. Talking about REITs, Sir Mark. So maybe we can just share our insight about the REIT sector. So they can answer yung mga REIT-related questions here sa chat box. Go ahead, Sir Mark.
Yeah, so how do REITs compute for earnings? It's practically the same thing as a regular company, right? You get the revenue from rental, you get the operating expenses from managing those offices or malls. Then at the end of the day, that's your operating income. After that, right? If you have debt, you minus the interest expense. If you have cash, you add interest from cash holdings. And then the only difference is there's no tax as long as they dividend those. Okay, so the way I see for the REITs, right? I guess you look at them like a bond, and at the same time an equity, right? So quite anyway. So dividends can go up given the escalation rate in terms of rentals, right? So your dividends will grow over time. At the same time, most of the if you pick a REIT that has a stable rental income or a REIT that has less risk, then you get some safety similar to a bond. So it's a balance between risk and income investing, in my view. So I guess for us, the more predictable the REIT, the lower the dividend yield. If the REIT is somewhat very volatile in terms of delivering dividends, then investors will put up a premium discount to those REITs by giving them higher dividend yields. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for sharing that, Sir Mark. And yeah, so I hope that gave insight on REITs. Now, here's another a curious question from an attendee. How is it possible that a lot of companies got listed in the PSE even though they have no revenues or income? Aren't these a requirement to be allowed to be listed in the PSE? Sir Mark?
Well, that is beyond my time. So since I started working here for First Metro Securities, I've never seen a company get listed in the in the PSE without a good record, right, of at least 3 years of income and revenue generation. Probably some of the listed companies there that you're talking about has been there for a long time and have led to structural change in their business models. Thus, revenues and earnings were not quite the same when they listed in the PSEI. So I hope that answers that question.
All right, thank you for that, Sir Mark. Here's another question. How often should you rebalance your portfolio? I think I'll take this question. So when it comes to rebalancing your portfolio, it really depends on how much time you can allocate to it. But when it comes to rebalancing your portfolios, maybe once or twice a year is enough. But that's what I do personally. It might be different for you. Some have longer times to rebalance their portfolio because sometimes they project 3 to 5 years then, no? But you know how the market evolves from time to time. So I think you can rebalance your portfolio once or twice. But it really depends on the investor because, for example, the way I rebalance my portfolio is just once a year because my portfolio allocation is uh, it's directly related to my age, no, relative to my let's say retirement, no. So how far is it from my retirement? So yeah, I use John Bogle's. No, one of the things that I use in the way I balance my portfolio is John Bogle's simple method. He said, 100 minus your age. That's the equation. So your age in bonds, the rest in stocks. So for example, if you're 30 years old, then you'll have 30% in bonds, 70% in stocks. Then as you age, let's say you go to 40 years old, 40% bonds, then 60% stocks. Then when you go to retirement, 60 years old, that's 60% bonds, 40% stocks. And the reason behind that is that you lower the risk of your portfolio by having more exposure into bonds because as you near retirement, the the stability and the income that your bond generates will be more important than the growth potential of stocks at that time. But when you are younger, the growth potential of stocks is you can take advantage of that than the stability of the bonds can provide. So yeah, again, that differs from person to person. Yeah. So here, another question. Yeah. Yeah, I think we can just take one more question because it's already 7:13. So what we're going to do after this is just we'll get the questions that have not been answered. Then we'll get back to you via email because we don't want to take much of your time. So I think we can take one more questions for a while. Yeah. Here's a question from an anonymous attendee. For a seasoned investor who is after cash flow already, instead of capital appreciation, what is the suggested allocation between preferred shares and bonds? So I guess it ties into what I answered a while ago. So once you identify that you're after cash flow, then maybe you'll have more exposure to cash flow generating investments, be it bonds or dividend paying stocks. So you'll gear your portfolio towards that. Now, when it comes to the suggested allocation, it really depends. Now, it really depends on your personal. You really need to seek help from a financial consultant when it comes to that because no, technically, no, we have what we call the efficient frontier. That's how you identify your uh, uh, best allocation for you. Now, because it entails different uh, uh, when it comes to risk return na relationship. But yun, maybe I think we'll have an upcoming webinar about portfolio management. So that will be in June. So I think it will be best that you attend that session so we can cover that. All right. So in as much as we'd like to answer most of your question, we still have some open questions here, but it's already 7:15. It's already extended for 15 minutes. So we'll just get back to you. We'll ask our marketing team to send us these questions so we can reply to you via your registered email address through this session. Now, to cap off this session, maybe I'd like to call in again Miss Joanna and Sir Mark for final words to our attendees who are existing investors in stocks. Joanna, can you share some last words for our attendees tonight?
Yes, thank you so much, JP. Now, to all our attendees, rest assured all of your questions now will be answered. However, we only have an hour to cater all your questions. So just like what JP said, we will coordinate with our marketing team and we will be providing answers to your unanswered questions. And also, this webinar will be uploaded din sa aming official YouTube channel. So you can check it maybe tomorrow. Okay, so again, thank you so much for attending this webinar and looking forward to your participation on our future events. Thank you.
Thank you, Jo. Go ahead, Sir Mark.
Yeah, some short words from me. Thank you very much for joining us. Yeah, we'll try to answer the questions. I've seen some interesting questions here that I would like to answer, but in the essence of time, I guess there were just too many questions to handle for an hour event, right? So thank you for coming and listening to us, and we'll probably do this again sometime in the near future, right, JP?
All right, thank you for that, Sir Mark. So again, to all our attendees this evening, I'm glad that the majority of you stayed up until the end of the session. Just goes to show how interesting our discussion was tonight. But feel free to follow us on our social media channels from Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, TikTok, Twitter or X, and YouTube. So you can just scan this QR code so it will take you there. So for all our attendees tonight, I also like to encourage you to send in your feedback. Please scan this QR code so we will know how we did well or what are things that we can improve on. And yeah, please use the code STOCKS if ever you're going to open an account with First Metrosec, so we will know that you came from this session. Ayan. So with that, thank you everyone and have a pleasant night ahead. I hope you learned a lot from our session, and based from our discussion tonight, I guess we'll be doing this more often as this is the first time that we tried to do this. So thank you everyone and have a good night ahead. Enjoy your dinners, guys. Bye-bye.